Hello, my next level friend. Welcome to the Artist Next Level podcast. In today's episode, I have the pleasure to talk to Dr. Yanina Gomez. She is the author of the book titled Today's Working Artist, Weekly Mindful Reflections to Awaken Your Potential. You don't want to miss this episode because we're going to have a great conversation that is going to benefit your art career.
Resources, inspiring interviews, business practices, and practical advice to take your art career to the next level. Join Sergio Gomez in today's Artist Next Level and get ready to take control of your career.
Well, hello, my friend. Super happy to be back here. This is now season number 9 of the Artist Next Level podcast. I took a little break since September of last year, so happy to be back again. I really miss doing these episodes, but I needed a little break too. So now as we kick in season number 9, super excited because with me, I have none other than, well, my wife, Dr. Yanina Gomez. She's literally sitting right next to me, and today we're going to talk about her brand new book that I'm super excited to share with you. It's called Today's Working Artist, Weekly Mindful Reflections to Awaken Your Potential. We're going to discover what the book is about, what was the inspiration, what makes this book different from other books, and more importantly, how it can benefit your art career. So, having said that, welcome, Dr. Yanina Gomez. Super happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here, and congratulations on season number 9. That's great.
I cannot believe it, right? Season number 9 seems like we just keep adding seasons.
Yeah, hey, that means that everybody's liking it and people are wanting more. So that's a good sign.
Exactly. And that reminds me, my friend, if you haven't done so yet, remember that you can always give us a review, whatever you're listening to this podcast. That always helps to get more artists listening to this episode. So, well, Dr. Yanina Gomez, first, congratulations.
Thank you.
Another book, it's like having another baby.
Yes.
And when it cries, you also have to attend it, except that this one sleeps well all night. And so we're happy because our friends here listening to this podcast are going to really benefit from this conversation. Personally, I will as well, I'm sure. On a personal level, I've seen you work on this book for an entire year.
Yes.
I know how hard it is. I had the privilege to working with you in our previous book that we did together,
Yes.
Crushing Self-Sabotage. And this time around, this is your own baby. I had nothing to do with it other than like cheering you up.
And being an inspiration.
And being an inspiration,
Yes.
of course. So maybe for the friends who may not know who you are, maybe we may have somebody who is brand new to the podcast. Can you give us a little brief introduction about who you are?
Yeah, so I am an author and speaker, and I provide mindset and emotional wellness support, coaching, and consultation for creatives and also female entrepreneurs. And what I do is I provide education and support and strategies on how to maintain a healthy mindset and emotional wellness. So I'm all about strategies. I'm all about rewiring your mindset, changing behaviors, replacing bad habits or toxic habits with more healthier, right, ones.
Mm-hmm.
So and of course I'm an author. I love writing, and which I didn't know in the past, but that's something that I discovered quite a few years ago, that my passion about writing. And it's all about providing resources for creatives and entrepreneurs out there who will benefit them and strengthen their mindset and emotional wellness, because we know that you can have all these ideas, you can have all these skills, you can have all this education, you name it. But if your mindset is not at par with the opportunities, sometimes our mindset can play some tricks on us, right? Our mind can play some trick on us, and to the point that it can even paralyze us, or we start doubting ourselves and we don't move forward because we're not addressing what's going on inside of us.
Mm-hmm. And this book helps us address those things, right?
Yes.
It helps us with that. We're going to dive right into the book in a second too. And, you are now spending a lot of time as an author. I've seen, your career evolve over the years. When we first got married, you would go to your job and I would go to mine, as an artist. And
Practicing traditional psychology.
right, you would say goodbye and I would say goodbye. I would go to the gallery or to the studio or to teach, and then you would go to also your practice to evaluate and things and
diagnose,
do everything that you did
stuff.
as a psychologist, exactly. And then we would get home like, how was your day? And you tell me a little about your day, I tell you a little about my mind. And then we went on to the next day.
Yes.
Eventually, you decided to jump in our side of the artist side, the creative side. And, you started working with us. You started actually working for the gallery. 1 full year, you devoted your full time to learn the ways of the artist, to learn how galleries work. You worked, every day at the gallery, meeting also with clients and going to business meetings and all that kind of thing.
It was a full year of being a gallerist.
Yeah, full year of learning about the intricacies of the art world. And by doing so, also, you met so many artists, and you began to realize the needs of the artists when it comes to emotional wellness. And, through that, then you transition into helping us as artists, deal with our emotions, deal with our mindset. Because even back then, there were hardly any resources available to us. Well, this is like 10 years ago about. So when we started this program that now is the Art Next Level program, that artists from around the world have been part of it on and off. And we continue helping artists of all walks of life, from emerging to mid-careers to establish. And you have been giving us such a wonderful advice. So today, a typical day for you is you spend time writing. Well, right now you're promoting, but you spend time writing. Also, you come to the Art Next Level program on a weekly basis, and you write something for us every week. And then once a week, you do live sessions where you answer any questions that artists may have, that they may be dealing with in their mindset and so on. So you have, I say all this because this is not psychologists that say, oh, I want to write something for artists, and then you disappeared again.
That I woke up one morning and said I wanted to write for artists.
I say this
that's
because
a good point.
You've been embedding yourself slowly into the creative life, into the life of the artist. You have seen how we operate, how we work. You have lived with one now for 27 years? 27 years or so. So
going on 28.
Yes, the things I struggle with and the conversations that I have with other artists. So, I think that, as you began to work with artists, and now that you have written these 2 books, and particularly today's Working Artist, how would you describe the creative mind? If I were to ask you, give me like an over observation, how is an artist in your point of view? Who are we? Of course, we are all different, right? And I'm not going to ask you to generalize it, but just, what, I guess the better question is, what attracts you to write about the creative mind, the creative artist versus, let's say, scientists or something else, Why artists?
That's a better question.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I had to correct my question.
Yeah, and one of the things that have really attracted me to write to creatives is that creatives in general are very well in tune with their emotions and their vision, and they have this way of being able to empathize with others, and they nurture and also embrace their emotions, and they understand that emotions are part of who we are as humans, and it's not a weakness. That showing emotions and nurturing your emotions it's not a sign of weakness, but rather it's a sign of strength. Many are so in tune with their vulnerability through their work. And because they are so in tune with their emotions, oftentimes those emotions can take a toll on them, right? And there is that sensitivity and that interest in giving back, in taking care of others, in not just being yourself, but through your art, sending your message and sharing your vision, your mission, your passions, whatever it's inside of you, you're so willing to do it through your art. So there is that connection between your mind and your emotions that is beautiful. And to you, as creatives, you're okay with talking about emotions. You're okay about experiencing those emotions. But what I have found is that although, yes, you are okay with all those things and you embrace that, there are times in which those emotions can take over. And that inner critic, it is a part of all of us. We all have that part or that voice, whichever you want to call it. I call it a part of us that is very harsh. That is that inner critic that is constantly telling you, no, you should not do this. You cannot do this, or your art is not good enough. You're not good enough. So, sometimes you're so in tune with your emotions that there is a difficulty between you as the self, making space between you and that inner critic, because oftentimes that inner critic takes over and decisions are made in your art career based on what that inner critic is telling you. So to me, it's so important that we learn to separate ourselves from those parts of us, whether it's the inner critic, whether it's that part of you that it shows up when you're in front of other people, that manager, or that part of you that tells you, no, why don't you just binge on Netflix today so we can just relax? Whatever part it is, we have so many different parts within us, but we need to learn to get to know those parts, and we need to learn to separate ourselves from those parts so that we can have a more objective approach when it comes to those feelings and emotions and those voices. And, I'm also talking about those mindset blocks. I'm talking about self-sabotage. I'm talking about all these different things that if we're not careful, they end up ruling your life. And that's in this book is a journey through those emotions that creatives often go through, and helping you on a weekly basis. Each week is one reflection that includes one action step that will lead you to transformation 1 week at a time.
I love that. And this is what makes this book also unique from other books and even other books that you have written. That this is not a book that is meant to just like typical book. You sit down, you buy it, and then you read it cover to cover, and you put it away and you highlight some things. Hopefully, you remember them in the future.
Yes,
but you made it into
a full year journey.
Into a journey, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Why doing it this way? How this idea came about? To when you were crafting the idea of the book, why did you decide to break it into weekly readings versus a book that just information?
There's a couple of reasons why I wanted to do that. One of the reasons is that I want to invite my reader to invest in themselves, to invest in self-care, and to invest in that in a way in which they can just go within and explore that inner world. And when you are exploring, when you are reflecting, it takes time. When you want to identify, you don't know what needs to be changed until you identify, right? You cannot change something unless you identify what needs to be changed. So I'm giving my reader that opportunity to identify what emotions and what things are going on within them that need to be changed, that need to be addressed. And change doesn't go overnight. Change takes intentionality, planning, execution, and evaluation, right? So it's a process. So if we want to change something that is not at par with what we want to be or with who we are, we need to give ourselves some time. If you want to change toxic habits and replace them into healthier ones, it takes time. But first, you have to identify it. Then you have to learn about it. Next, you have to decide what step I'm going to take to change it. And then you have to create a plan. And then, ideally, you go back and reassess. So this is the process that I'm teaching here in this book. It's a very simple process. It's reflect, plan, act. And
Simple.
it's very simple, but when you invest in yourself, when you take the time to go within and reflect and plan and take action, it's a process. That's why I wanted to give my reader permission to take their time, to not rush through another book, but rather to go take your time and invest in yourself and take the necessary steps to make it to change or replace.
I love it. I think this is great. One of the many topics that you covered in the book, as in a minute I want to highlight the different topics that you covered, but like you started with the one that I think is very common for artists, working with connecting with the inner critic and partnering with my inner critic. Those are the chapter 1 and 2, really focusing on the inner critic. I think all of us as creatives are familiar with the inner critic. You make something and then you start wondering, is it any good? Does anybody would like it? What if I share it? What if I don't sell it? What if I sell? Everything from what if to I wondered, all the questions that come to mind. And
which is why it's chapter 1 and 2.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to read here a little paragraph from week 1. This is where you start, like the very first reading that you will do after you introduce this, this particular chapter. Week 1 on getting to know each other better. It reads, the natural and most effective way to know someone is by investing in the relationship and giving them the gift of attention. Relationships grow stronger when both parties practice open communication and active listening. The same goes for your inner critic. When you engage in a dialogue with your inner critic, acknowledge his concerns, and listen to what he has to say, you are fostering a more constructive and harmonious internal relationship. When you're partnered with your inner critic, you'll experience self-awareness and personal growth. This means you get better at understanding your thought process, fears, and insecurities, which is invaluable for your creative journey. I love that because a lot of times, and I used to think, and maybe many artists used to think, that the inner critic, you want to put it away, like you want to put it in the corner, right? Like it's a bad boy, bad girl. Put him in the corner and turn away so that it doesn't bother you, so that you can run away from your inner critic, so that you can quiet the inner critic. Your approach is different because you are actually inviting us to sit with the inner critic.
Yes.
And like the way I'm sitting next to you and get to know the inner critic rather than ignoring the inner critic, right? Which I've been guilty of, like say, this inner critic, shut up, I know what I'm doing, kind of thing.
Yes.
So showing the inner critic. So tell us about the approach that you use, for this, you as a psychologist, why is this important?
Well, the inner critic is part of you, right? It's one of your parts. And no one wants to have a nagger, a naysayer, a harsh, mean, annoying voice, because it is exhausting and, it kind of like turns you off. And it is part of you. So why don't we get to know that part? And instead of fighting with that part all the time, why don't we get to know that part of you and know its intentions? If someone that is with me is like that, like in the real world, and you have to be with that person for the rest of your life. I mean, imagine someone that you have to be with for the rest of your life. You wouldn't want that person to be like that for the rest of your life because it's a miserable relationship. Instead, what would you do? You would like to get to know that person. You would like to get to know why this person is that way. What is that person's intention? Why he is so harsh, right? So that you can have that two-way conversation. And hopefully the whole idea is like, maybe you are understanding his intentions. Maybe you guys can figure out a different way of approaching that. Maybe it can be, instead of being so harsh, why don't we try this? Why don't we try that? Because it's more effective. It works. You respond much better if it's not as harsh. Well, that's the same with that inner critic. That inner critic is a part of you that has been born out of, the likelihood is out of a trauma, whether it was in childhood, adolescence, young adults, that's something that it changes, but it varies per person.
It could be something as simple like getting many rejections from shows or rejections from grants. So you start getting there in the critic like, oh, why you do it again? So sometimes not necessarily like a big
doesn't have to be a horrible traumatic experience, but experiences are the ones that give birth to our inner critic. So that's my approach. If you if you're dealing with another person and you want to have this communication and figure out things so that both of you can work together as one and being at the same page with the same goals, why not have the same approach to your inner world? Would you like to have that inner voice constantly being so harsh for the rest of your life and paralyzing you or depriving you from opportunities or leading to horrible decision making or insecurities or low self-esteem or low self-confidence, you name it? No, instead, let's figure out what is going on with your inner critic. Your inner critic is your inner protector. That's basically, inner critics are protectors, and protectors are there to protect you. It just happens to be that this inner critic that is so harsh has learned that that's how you respond and react. So that's why when you get to know your inner critic's intention and you find other ways to address the same issues in more compassionate way. So instead of seeing your inner critic as this annoying, horrible voice that you hate, that you can't stand, well, let's see it in a more compassionate way. What is it that it's trying to tell you? What is it that it's protecting you from? What is its intention? And possibly when you engage in that inner dialogue, maybe you're able to find other ways for your inner critic to respond to you and find a different way to approach when a danger is perceived in your inner system, because the inner critic will pop up when it's perceiving some sort of danger, when you're getting out of your comfort zone. Because as long as you are in your comfort zone, mostly your inner critic will be okay. Unless you have that inner critic that is like telling you how lazy you are, right? Oftentimes that's a different protector. That's more like your manager that is like, oh, you're so lazy, you could do better, what's going on? But it's the same kind of relationship. You do the same with that voice that is telling you that. So it's the whole idea of finding other ways and seeing your inner critic as your protector, as like an ally. And not the enemy.
Inviting them into the table.
Inviting your inner critic into the table, but providing at the same time different ways of dealing with the situation.
Got it.
And and you're probably thinking, oh my goodness, these people are crazy. They think we have different personalities. No, I mean, if you give yourself an opportunity, and you will learn that there are parts inside of you. And I'm going to give you a quick example. Say that you have to make a decision, a big decision. One voice is going to tell you, oh, you should go for it, right? This is a lifetime opportunity. How can you say no to that? You're crazy. You got to go. Then you have another voice that tells you, oh, watch out. Remember what happened the last time you did. It didn't go as you planned. Those are what the parts that I'm talking about. Sometimes, if you want to call it voices, you want to call it really doesn't matter. I call them parts. So they're there, they're real. Yeah. Because we are very complex beings. We're not black and white.
And I think all day, it's the moment that we wake up, we're in conversation with those parts, with our mind.
Yeah,
even
immediately.
As we are here right now, I'm talking to myself. Make sure you ask a good question, right? Make sure that you follow up with something that the audience will find interesting. Yes. Right? So those are conversations that happen. And if you pay attention,
you will realize that the source of each one of those comments that are going on in your head are different sources. It's not the same. It's not just one source, because you have that one that is more go-getter. You have that one that is more cautious. You have that one that has a lot of fear. You have the other one that reminds you of your parent voice. So if you give yourself that opportunity, you will get to know all these different parts within you that makes you the self.
Exactly. No, I love that. Probably for me, I would say, may correct me if I'm wrong, but because I haven't gone through the whole book just yet, But for example, the kind of like the part that's adventurous for me is the part that I like to start things, and I'm not afraid of like trying, testing, and doing things. And that's why, when I talk to artists, I like to teach about the things that I've done, because I'm not afraid of failing and trying and then figuring something new. However, I'm afraid of other things, or I have other voices that give me otherwise. But there's that one voice that says, So in other words, not all the voices are negative. I have this voice that says, Sergio, you can do it.
You have the adventurous, you have the playful, like different. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I love it. Well, and now the inner critic is not the only topic that you cover. No. So this is not a book about the inner critic. You start with the inner critic, but I want to give our listeners here, also our friends, a quick overview. With Chapter 3, you talk about breaking free of mindset blocks, which again, super important topic. We spent a whole book on that previous to this one. Yes,
that's what crush self-sabotage and live fully. It's all about, yes.
Yeah, Chapter 4, thriving through uncertainty. That's very pertinent to the times right now. Chapter 5, exploring my authenticity and purpose. Chapter 6, conquering fear and boldness.
With boldness.
Oh, with boldness, sorry. Yeah. That's a good one. Looking forward to reading that one. Chapter 7, embracing my inner strength and confidence. Chapter 8, gaining clarity through mindful decision making. Yeah, our career is full of decisions. Chapter 9, bouncing back rejection as redirection.
Yes.
Chapter 10, finding flow amidst distractions. Hey, that one's for me, I guess. That's my chapter. Chapter 11, unlocking serenity within. Chapter 12, preventing burnout. What an important one.
Yes.
And that's nice that if you started this book like beginning of the year, that's going to be somewhere around December-ish when burnout usually happens. Chapter 13, infusing my art with faith. And then you have final thoughts. So and why 13 weeks? So is your calendar different than mine?
Well, the chapter 13 is a bonus. It's a bonus chapter.
Okay.
And one of the things that I want to let your audience know, and my readers, is that even though the book is divided in chapters, as you probably figured out by now, each chapter is emotional mindset or emotional wellness issue, right?
Yeah. And which is respected to 1 month.
It's a whole month. Each month is each month has a different mindset and emotional wellness topic. That's the word that it just leaped out of my head. Topic. So the way I wrote it is that you don't have to follow it in order.
Oh,
so
okay,
that's one thing.
I didn't know that.
That contrary to what you have been taught all your life, I'm about here books. To break those barriers.
As artists, we like to break rules. So there you go. We can break that rule right away.
You can break that rule right away. You can read it like chapter by chapter, like especially chapter 1 and 2, they go hand in hand. But other than that, and even then, you can just start working on your inner critic, and then you're probably going to be like, okay, I need a break, and then just do a different topic, and then go back to the inner critic chapter 2. So I advise, it's up to you, but I recommend that you start with the topic that is calling your name.
Unlocking serenity. No, the one that called my name was finding flow amidst distractions.
Right,
because
you
know me,
there.
Right? That's a good
you
one.
You start there, so you really don't have. I'm just being the rebel here, so you don't have to follow the order. I'm not gonna get offended. On the contrary, you start with what you feel is what you need to work on that specific month. So then you can start with chapter 13, because you are now you're in the process of, I want to infuse my art with my faith, and this is something that I really want to do. So you start with that. But then next month you're like, oh, now I'm going through all this, I'm maneuvering
burnout,
uncertainty, and things are not going well. I'm very concerned about what's going on. External circumstances and factors are really affecting me. Then you go to that and work on that chapter.
Perfect. And I've been talking to a lot of artists right now. Depends when our friends are listening to this podcast, but there's always things happening in the world, and particularly right now, many artists are concerned about the future, uncertainty, the economy, and things of that nature. So I think that many of these things, thriving through uncertainty, definitely it's a topic that is very much now, in the present.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
something else that I love about this book is, well, first of all, it's a book that it's okay if it gets all worn out, right?
Yes.
So
that would be nice.
because you want to use it
You're gonna
year
use it.
round,
Yes.
you can actually finish the book and then start again.
Start
Because
again. Yes.
these are things that the answers to the questions that you provide, I assume, will change over time
Yes,
too. The
yes,
exercises that you
yes.
provide, which typically is a couple of questions each week.
Yes, or exercises.
Or exercises for us to think about. They will change. Then if I were to read this book again 2 years from now.
Yes,
Because
your
I'll be a different
answers-
person.
Right. I mean, ideally, your answers will be different because that means that you have worked through the first time those issues, and because we are human beings who live in an imperfect world, the issues are gonna keep popping up. And with my books, I don't promise any cure. I just promise to give you strategies and tools so that you can navigate life in a healthier way. Right. So I will never. I will tell you, buy my book so that you can cure uncertainty, or you can cure mindset blocks, or you can just be whatever. No, I'm just providing you with tools, strategies, exercises to help you become aware, to empower you, and so that you give yourself permission to take the necessary steps that will lead to transformation.
I love it. And now there's also something I wanted to share with our friends as we wrap up our session. And I'll have you back again in another time so that we can go into some of the other chapters. Today I kind of want to just get an overview and help our artists get the book. Today's Working Artist Weekly Mindful Reflections to Awaken Your Potential by Dr. Yanina Gomez, who is already available on Amazon, on Barnes and Noble.
And they can request it in any local bookstore.
Okay, perfect. You can, if you want to have it in your community, you can ask them to order it for you. So it's available now. You can order it. It's also available in Kindle version if you would like that as well. That's available. It's not available right now as an audiobook. However, I'm told that if you download it as a Kindle, you can click so it can read it for you, right? So it will read it for you if that's the way you prefer it. But there are short chapters, that are totally doable.
Reflections. They're short, sweet.
Even for the most busy artists in the world, you can still get to it. But the other part I wanted to mention really quickly is that you also have a program that you're going to be doing with artists, almost like a book club for a couple months.
Yes.
So tell us what's the name of it. It's going to be inside the Art Next Level program. Let us know when it starts.
As a member of the Art Next Level program, you will be able to join me through Today's Working Artist. And it's basically for 2 months, we're going to get together every Monday from 11 to 12 Eastern time. And we're going to be exploring that reflection, right? And then we are going to go over the exercises or the questions. We're going to have a chat. We're going to chat about that, whatever specific reflection we're dealing with. That day, we're just going to have a conversation about it. And the beauty about it is that we are going to hold each other accountable. So, like each week, each reflection has, as we said before, exercises or questions. So then very next week, we're gonna have an opportunity to talk about how those exercises or questions have made a difference, how it landed in you, what the process that you went through, because that's the whole thing about this. You start at the beginning of the week, Sunday or Monday, ideally, right? And you give yourself the entire week to process that reflection, to answer the questions, to do the exercises. And then we meet the very next week to hold each other accountable. What did you learn? What did you find? What are your thoughts? What are you going to do next? So we're going to hold each other accountable so that we all can grow together. So I will be offering that for 2 months, for the month of April and the month of May, and depending on how it goes, maybe we can do that more often in the program. We'll see. But we're gonna start with that. So, and every reflection, every gathering, I'm going to start with the guided meditation.
Super.
So to help us is the whole idea about recentering, regrounding, right? And resetting and restarting. I'm all about reground, reset, restart. It doesn't matter if it's April. It doesn't matter if it's January. It doesn't matter if it's November. You can always reground, reset, and restart.
The 3 R's
The
of
3
magic.
Rs, yeah.
And
Yeah.
my friend, if you want to join us for that, you want to join Dr. Yanina and other artists from around the world who will be also participating, just go to theartistnextlevel.com. That's where you will find the link to join the Art Next Level community, the Art Next Level program. Once you are inside, you not only have access to this journey, but also through all our courses, our personal coaching that we do every week, and you have an opportunity to continue working with us to taking your art career to the next level. So, Dr. Yanina, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh,
This
thank
was
you.
such a wonderful conversation. I look forward also as an artist myself, to go through this program, to this and through this book as well, and to have the benefits of every word that you have written. So thank you once
It's a
again.
pleasure.
We will have you back, and again to all our friends, welcome back to season number 9 of the Artist Next Level podcast. Please share this episode with your friends. Give us a review. Make sure you come back next week for more. I'm gonna be sharing some of the content that I've been saving for you for season 9. So it's gonna be really good. Looking forward to that. And thank you again. And my friends, if you want to follow Dr. Yanina Gomez on social media, you can find her at
Dr. Yanina Gomez.
Dr. Dr. Yanina Gomez. You'll find her there. Her website is dryaninagomez.com as well.
Yes.
And that's it. Well, thank
Or
you so much.
theartistnextlevel.com.
Or theartistnextlevel.com. Of course, you'll find
I
all the
really
information.
hope that you choose to join me in this journey. It will be amazing starting March 31st
March 31st. of
from
course.
11 to 12 Eastern Time.
Yep. And even if you happen to listen to this podcast a little bit after that, you can still join.
Yes,
because
please.
it doesn't
Yeah,
get
you can
old, so.
still join. There's a lot of things going on in the Art Next Level program other than this journey. So,
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, my friends. And we'll see you at the next level.
bye.
Check out our website at www.theartistnextlevel.com, where you will find our podcast library, learn about our upcoming webinars, find resources relevant to your career, and much more. Thanks for listening to today's podcast, and we'll see you at the next level.